Okay, so it really feels like things are shifting pretty rapidly in Europe right now, doesn't it? Especially around defense and security.
Absolutely. There's a lot of movement, new discussions, new alliances forming, it seems.
Yeah, and the scale of some of the potential, military buildup being talked about is, well, it's quite something.
It is. The whole geopolitical situation is fluid, and the EU is definitely at a sort of crossroads figuring out its security role.
Which leads us nicely into what we're looking at today. It's a YouTube video from the Neil McCoy Ward channel title, and it's quite a title. So, what the EU just announced is crazy. More trouble to come.
Right. Quite the attention grabber. It gives a specific perspective on some recent EU announcements and meetings.
Yeah, exactly. So, our mission, really, for you listening, is to unpack what's in this video, the key initiatives, the concerns raised, and just try to bring some clarity and context to these big EU defense plans.
Sounds good. Where does the video start?
It kicks off with a defense meeting in Rome, specifically mentions five key countries: the UK, Germany, Poland, Italy, and France.
Okay, so the heavy hitters, really, in terms of European military and economic power.
Definitely. And the video says their focus was on counteracting this Eastern aggression and building stronger EU alliances.
Standard geopolitical talk, but important given the context. What else?
Well, this is interesting. It highlights a statement about the eventual disengagement of Washington. That seems to be driving a real sense of urgency.
Ah, the strategic autonomy debate.
Hmm.
That perception, whether fully accurate or not, that the U.S. might step back, certainly fuels calls for Europe to, stand more on its own feet defensively.
Yeah, it feels like that conversation's been bubbling for a while, but maybe it's accelerating now.
Could be. It's a significant undercurrent in a lot of these discussions.
Now, the video also picks up on a comment from that Rome meeting about keeping Russia away from EU members, quote, including Ukraine.
Right, and the video points out the factual inaccuracy there. Ukraine isn't an EU member.
Exactly. It's an important distinction, highlights the delicate situation. Ukraine's partnership is strong, but membership is different. And obviously, that shared border with Russia is key.
It absolutely shapes the security landscape, regardless of formal EU ties. Geography matters.
Okay, so moving on from the Rome meeting, the analysis then focuses on Ursula von der Leyen and these, well, pretty substantial rearmament plans.
Yes, the video mentions a new wave of rearmament, talking about an 800 billion war chest over 4 years.
800 billion. I mean, that's a staggering figure.
It really is. And the video rightly flags the controversial part, the idea of partially using Russian-seized illegal assets to help pay for it.
Yeah, that raises huge questions, doesn't it? International law, the definition of illegal seizure, it's complex.
Very complex. The legality is definitely debatable, as this source suggests.
And von der Leyen's plan, according to the video, involves creating sort of new budget flexibility for member states and also an ad hoc fund.
Right, a fund specifically aimed at boosting the EU's own defense industrial base.
So it's not just about buying more kit off the shelf, it's about building the capacity to design and make it in Europe.
Precisely. It ties into that bigger picture of strengthening EU capabilities, more integration between militaries. It's a clear signal.
And the video links this to the long-term idea of a more unified European military force, maybe even an EU army, though that term is loaded.
It is. The video notes the careful language used in official statements, the sort of complex patterns. It suggests they're hinting at things without explicitly committing yet.
That typical diplomatic speak, maybe, alluding to possibilities.
Exactly. Analyzing that kind of nuanced language, the subtext, can be quite revealing about the underlying direction they might be heading, even if it's a long way off.
So to make this more concrete, the video talks about some specific initiatives already happening. PESCO, for instance.
Yes. Permanent Structured Cooperation, launched back in 2017.
So for you listening, this is basically a framework, right, for EU countries to work together more closely on defense projects.
Yeah, things like cybersecurity, joint infrastructure, R&D, and is legally binding, encouraging deeper cooperation, shared funding, maybe common standards for equipment. It's more structured than just one-off projects.
Okay. Then there's the Strategic Compass from 2022. This set out defense goals up to 2030.
Right, and the video makes an interesting observation here, that some goals seem to be getting ticked off ahead of schedule.
Which suggests what? An acceleration, maybe driven by current events.
That would be a reasonable interpretation, yes. The changing security environment seems to be speeding things up, creating more urgency.
The video also mentions this idea of a rapid deployment force by 2030, though it admits details are a bit thin on the ground in the source material.
The concept itself points to wanting a more agile, deployable European force, even if the specifics aren't clear yet.
And underpinning all this, as the video points out, is significant EU investment already flowing into military projects and the necessary infrastructure.
Which is the tangible proof, isn't it? The money and the infrastructure work show a real commitment to bolstering that collective defense posture. You need the roads, the networks, the bases to actually project force effectively.
Okay, shifting slightly away from purely EU-wide stuff, the video highlights a joint UK-Germany missile project.
Ah, yeah, the new 2,000-kilometer range missile. That definitely made headlines.
It did, and the video notes how some headlines framed it, saying it can strike Russia.
Which is potentially provocative language, to say the least. It immediately brings up questions about signaling, escalation risks.
Exactly. Developing the capability is one thing. How you talk about it is another. Very sensitive.
Definitely.
The analysis then zooms in on specific member states. Starts with the Netherlands.
Okay, what are they up to?
Big acquisitions. A large contract for Saab Carl Gustaf M4 anti-tank weapons. Deliveries start 2028, significantly longer range than what they have now.
Right, modernizing infantry firepower. Preparing for future deployments, though, as the video says, where those might be is unclear.
And they're also buying tanks. 46 Leopard tanks from KNDS must be a manufacturer. Over $1 billion. Again, flagged for future deployments.
So investment in both anti-tank capabilities and heavy armor seems like a comprehensive upgrade across the board for the Dutch military, enhancing their contribution potential.
Then the focus shifts to Germany. Big news there. Plans to potentially increase defense spending dramatically.
Yeah, the video mentions going from about 1.89% of GDP up to maybe 5%.
5%. That would put them ahead of the UK, France, Italy in terms of percentage spend. That's a massive potential shift for Germany.
It really is. Historically, they've been quite restrained, for obvious reasons. This suggests a fundamental rethink in Berlin, driven by the current security climate. It's quite profound if it happens.
And this ties into talk about the EU's own mutual defense clause, Article 42.7.
Right. The video mentions Austrian General Robert Brigger stressing the need for a clear EU defense approach, and that recommendations were made about this article.
So just to remind everyone, Article 42.7 is the EU's version of NATO's Article 5, isn't it? Attack on one is an attack on all.
Exactly that. And the fact it's being discussed, potentially updated or refreshed, shows they're actively trying to strengthen that collective security guarantee within the EU framework.
Okay. Now, the video takes a bit of a turn, discussing a specific, quite disturbing incident in Slovakia.
Oh, what happened?
The firebombing of the Slovak Prime Minister's house and car.
Goodness, that's serious.
Very. And the detailed video highlights is the alleged perpetrator identified as a 21-year-old Ukrainian national. The reported motive was anger over the level of support for Ukraine.
Wow, that's complex and concerning. And the video raises questions about the reporting.
Yeah, it notes the initial media coverage was somewhat limited, and it apparently took time for the suspect's nationality to be widely reported. Suggests maybe a reason for that delay, though doesn't explicitly state one.
Transparency in these situations is always tricky, but crucial. Very sensitive detail indeed.
Certainly raises questions. Then, switching gears again, the video brings up past comments from Ursula von der Leyen criticizing allies over the Trump-era tariffs.
Ah, the trade disputes. What was her point?
That allies kind of let the EU down by not collectively fighting those tariffs, forcing the EU to face them mostly alone.
It just highlights that even close allies have diverging interests sometimes, especially on trade. Those can be real points of friction.
True. Okay, finally, the video touches on some domestic UK issues. Starts with the economy.
Right. UK Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves' plans.
Yeah, proposals for tax increases, especially on the wealthy, aiming to raise about £5 billion. The video expresses skepticism, though.
About the economic impact.
Correct.
Potential for businesses or entrepreneurs to leave.
Exactly. That concern about higher taxes potentially driving away investment or talent, it's a standard counter-argument in these debates.
It is. The effects of tax policy are always hotly debated, finding that balance.
The video also gives a nod to ongoing bin strikes in Birmingham. Local issues persisting.
Okay. Practical problems.
And then something more systemic. The UK plan for early prison release due to prison overcrowding.
Ah, that's been in the news. Raising concerns, I imagine.
Yes, about public safety, who gets released. The video mentions Mrs. Mahmood warning about potential breakdown of law and order if capacity is breached.
Prison overcrowding is a massive challenge. No easy fixes, lots of social and political fallout.
And linked to that, the video mentions plans for 3 new UK prisons. Estimated cost, 4.7 billion total.
Wow. That sounds very expensive per prison, as the video apparently points out.
Yeah, it breaks down to about 1.6 billion each. The analysis questions that high figure, raises flags about public spending efficiency, I suppose.
Large infrastructure projects always need scrutiny on cost effectiveness and management, definitely.
And one last UK point, the reported consideration of a hosepipe ban for spring and summer.
A hosepipe ban? Already? Why?
The cited reason mentioned is global boiling, but the video speaker offers an alternative view. Suggests it might also be down to infrastructure issues, leaks, maintenance problems with the water companies.
Right. It's often a mix of factors, isn't it? Climate change impacts and infrastructure resilience both play a role in water management, not always just one thing.
Sure. So wrapping this all up, it's clear there's a huge amount going on with EU defense. Big plans, new collaborations, a changing security picture overall.
Absolutely. We're seeing significant potential shifts, rearmament talks, efforts towards greater integration. It's a pivotal time for European security.
And we've also seen how internal issues in member states, like the UK examples, are part of that wider context too. Economics, social challenges, they all feed in.
Understanding all these different threads, the big strategic moves, the internal politics, the economic factors, is really key to getting a handle on where Europe might be heading. The decisions being debated now will shape things for years to come.
Definitely. Which brings us to a final thought for you listening. When you consider all these developments, the EU's defense push, the potential US shift, the internal pressures, what do you think are the biggest long-term consequences? For European security, yes, but also for its relationship with the rest of the world.
Yeah. A lot to think about there. How does Europe position itself amidst these changes? Worth mulling over.